Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, next week Parliament is set to pass a bill into law which could be deeply damaging for British Muslims and could really impact upon our lives negatively for a long time to come. It's known as the Counter Terrorism Bill, and I'm sure a number of you have heard of it. Here are 3 reasons why you must act this weekend to stop it becoming law. Number 1, your passport. Imagine you're at Heathrow Airport with your family and you're about to go either on holiday or for Umrah or Hajj or something along these sorts of lines. And all of a sudden, a police officer at Heathrow Airport decides to seize your passport. Why? Because they have reasonable suspicion that you may be leaving the UK to engage in terrorist activity. Now, in an ideal world, if the police got it right every single time, then that would be absolutely right for them to seize the passport of anybody engaging in terrorist activity. The problem we have, unfortunately, though, is if stop and search and the experience we have from the police as far as stop and search is concerned is anything to go by. We had a situation whereby way more Muslims than pro rata our percentage of the population were stopped and searched. About a quarter of stop and searches HMIC concluded were actually illegal. And worst of all, we have this situation where a good many police forces weren't even trained to stop and search properly. Can you imagine if we have a repeat performance by the police, but this time not just stopping and searching you on the street, but actually at Heathrow, when you've paid a fortune for a flight, for accommodation and so on, and now on the back of bad practice, on the back of poor training, they seize your passport for 30 days at a huge cost to yourselves. It's not a great result at all. Number 2, temporary exclusion orders. What are those? Well, imagine you make it out of Heathrow with your passport intact and it's not been seized. Then your problem may well be when you return to Heathrow, because at the point at which you return to Heathrow, you may be in for a nasty shock. Under the temporary exclusion orders regime, the government can keep you outside of the UK for up to 2 years if it suspects that you have been involved in terrorist activity. And the worst part of it is no doubt you're thinking this is a country with due process, you'll be able to challenge the government's decision in court and be back in the UK within a few days, but I'm afraid I've got some bad news for you. The government reserves the right to hear your case under what's known as closed material procedures. That is effectively a closed court where you yourself as the defendant are not allowed, there is no jury present, everything is heard in secret and a decision is made. Justice like that is not justice at all. Number 3, the government's Prevent programme, which I'm sure many of you have heard about. Now, set aside for a second the accusations levied against Prevent when it comes to putting up spy cameras in Birmingham and spying on the Muslim community. There certainly have been accusations in that sphere. Also set aside the fact that moving forwards, even though it's serious, teachers at nurseries might be looking at young children to identify signs of radicalization. Toddlers, actually, 3-year-old, 4-year-old toddlers. Those 2 incidents are serious in their own right. But the biggest issue, the most significant issue here with Prevent, is that it may well wind up potentially criminalizing the actions of socially conservative Muslims, certain things we like to do in terms of how we pray, where we pray, our beards, the niqabs women wear. It may well wind up criminalizing potentially some of these actions and looking at them all through the sphere of radicalization, us being radicalized Muslims, potentially Islamists on the way to extremism. Unfortunately, the program has that rather unhealthy tendency and track record when it comes to dealing with the Muslim community, and that's why it's now becoming a statutory requirement across universities, schools, hospitals, nurseries, councils, and many, many more institutions. Is deeply concerning in terms of the impact it could well wind up having on socially conservative Muslims. So you could wind up losing your passport for 30 days, you could wind up being exiled outside of the UK for up to 2 years, and your children at nursery could wind up being analysed for signs of radicalisation. But do you know what? There's only one way to stop this insanity and madness, and that is to go and visit your Member of Parliament this weekend and in the strongest possible terms object to them supporting the counter-terrorism legislation. Tell them, urge them, vote no against this legislation. Vote against it, vote no. The reality is it's going to curb Muslim civil liberties in a massive fashion, to say the least. You can find out more information at www.stopthebill.co.uk or our website, www.mend.org.uk. Jazakallah khair for listening. Please forward this to as many people as possible and please visit your MP.